Hey there, welcome back. Let's get started. So we did Russia was acted last time. So now we got to do China acts this time. There's no die roll necessary. So let's get to work. This is going to take a while. So if we, like last time, China was all about putting influence markers everywhere. So has China won the game? They need to have 15 or more influence markers. Because it wants to do a China-led world order. So obviously that hasn't happened. China is currently at 3. So actually they're probably at 4 because we added 1. So 1, 2, 1 here, 1 there for 2. And then 1 there for 3 and 1 here for 4. So that's the 4. But that's going to change because they're going to get actions and they're going to do stuff. So here we go. This is what in the tabletop playthrough we were doing. And they're currently at posture 1. And some of the flipped tension markers, there's only one tension marker on them. And that is no effect. So that's interesting. Well, that still counts as a tension, but that means there's so they're at posture 1 with no tension points. So let's see how this goes. The sum of is not 5 or more. If China is a posture 1, it would not otherwise be entitled to increase to posture 2. But their SOE is 3 or 4. In fact, their SOE is 3. Immediately increase them to posture 2. This represents a government approach of let's get more aggressive abroad to take people's minds off troubles at home. So they go to posture 2, which then causes this to go into the cup. I think this is meant to be not indented. Because with this being indented, that tells me that this has to be true first. See, this is another instruction. Yeah, I think that's its own bullet. So we had to do that. So that caused them to go to posture 2. And then based on the sum of the tensions values above, China's relationship with if the sum of the counters is 0 to 1, place a trending pro-US. So it actually is 0. So we do get a pro-US relationship, which is interesting. And for every increment of 5, we can skip that. Immediately before you perform any actions, remove all the tensions and redraw half rounded up. So I'm going to remove 1 tension marker and draw 1. And that, of course, is going to go back on the China board. So they have 1. And remember, they have a -1 AP, which we're going to take off now. But this -1 AP reflects when their economy, I think, crashed. So they're going to get 1 less action point here. So next thing we do, where do we count the action points? Let's see. Apparently not here. So first thing we do is increase strategic capabilities. Make 2 or 3 attempts to improve capabilities. They're going to make 3 because they just moved to posture 2. Roll a d10, subtract 1 if there's any sanctions. A 1 to a 4. A 1 to 5 increases in success. So areas in which China trails by 2 or more. There's only one area, and that is the recon. So let's do that one. They rolled a 3, so that one does improve by 1. So they got 1. Now they have 2 more to try. So the next one They want to increase cyber warfare and naval forces training and tech. If they have two or more, both cyber warfare and naval forces training and tech. So cyber warfare is the first one. They rolled a 4, so they improved that one. They're now ahead of us by 2 on that one. That's not good. And then naval is also a 4. They got all 3 of theirs. So they are now tied with us on naval. Not good. And then it's just reminding us that multiple attempts can be made, but once one's improved, you have to move on. They got all 3 of theirs. Next, conduct espionage. If China's relations at 1 or 2, nope, we're going to skip all that. Next, improve the economy. Let's roll. We rolled a 2. A 1 to a 5, place an improving economy counter on China. They already have one. So this comes off and they move up to 4. So they did improve. There was some modifiers here. There's no sanctions. I think they would have gotten a few -1s. And then they have a relationship with us, so they would have been fine. Okay, calculate the number of actions. Their SOE, which did just move up to 4 plus 1. So they have 5 actions, but they had an AP -1, so that drops to 4. Yep. They have 4 actions. And they were saying that you can, where's the die? They were just suggesting that you use that to track how many actions they have left. Okay, perform each action listed below once in order until all 4 are done. Oh, it's modified. The number of actions is modified by the relations with the U.S. So we got to look at that. Their relation with the U.S. is here. It's -0. If they actually improve it 1 more, they do get a -1. So it's still 4. All right, here we go. Terror in Central South Asia. If there are 5 total terror groups, there are 2. Well, you add them together, there's 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. So they don't have one there. They would be able to remove one, though, which would have been pretty cool. Quell Rising Descent. Rolling a d10, adding 1 if China posture is 2, which it is. Subtracting 1 if their economy is 6 or better, which it's not. So that's a 10. So we have to add 1, makes it 11. No effect. Reinforcements. China is not at war. There are no sanctions. Skip this action. So we're all the way down to the bottom, so now we got to move to the next set of sections. They still have 4 actions left. Of course, cyber attacks. So let's roll to see who they're targeting. A 9 is Japan or Republic of Korea. And let's see. This is their thing. They are greater than the U.S. A 4. I always roll well for their cyber attacks. They succeed, which is they will decrease the ally relationship for either Japan or South Korea by 1 level. I don't want either of them to go down by 1 level, but I guess we'll do Japan first. Okay, that was 1 action. And then let's keep going. 1 Belt, 1 Road. Place a trending anti-U.S. counter on China's relations with the U.S. track. Then perform the following steps using this list of Belt and Road regions. All right, well, the anti-US just counters the pro-US. So all that did was remove this marker. That's fine. Now we got to count the number of Belt and Road regions that have either 3 China influence counters or a China base. That's 0. If there's 0 or 1, perform option A. Place 1 China influence counter in the 2 Belt and Road regions where China has the fewest influence counters. So we're looking at Asia, Pacific, they have 1. Central South Asia, they have 1. The Middle East, they have 0. Africa, they have 1. Eastern Europe, 0. So that's the 2, the Middle East and Eastern Europe. So Middle East gets 1, Eastern Europe gets 1, and just like that, bam, China's up to 6 influence. And that was 1 action, so that's 2 of their 4 gone. All right, and then we keep going. Expand China's influence in neighboring regions. If any regions have 3 or more, they don't. Make 1 roll on the first region specified by the following conditions. So Asia Pacific, if there's 0 or 1 influence counters, roll. I rolled a 7. So that's the one we're rolling for. Roll D10, add the region's U.S. regional alignment. So that was a 7 plus our regional alignment is 7. So that's 14. On a result of 10 or less, they get an influence counter. Any result has no effect but does count as an action. So we just burned one of their actions and they didn't accomplish anything. Now they know how I feel. Then reinforce allies. If China has relative strength on the China-Japan or India-China conflict track. China-Japan, they're equal. No, they have relative strength on that one. Select a track that is less favorable to China. I'm going to look at the other one. India, China, they're actually both the same. Select China, Japan if tied. Roll D10 and subtract 2. 10 minus 2 is 8. If the result is less than the current SOE value, which is 4, move the counter 1 box in favor. Any other result has no effect. So that was a big nothing burger. Pakistan's not at war with India. Now we move to action 5. If there are at least 2 China influence counters or a China base in the Asia Pacific, there are not. There's only 1. So skip. Neighbors contest Chinese expansion. Choose whether to use U.S. air and naval forces to intimidate threatened force against the Chinese, then roll a D10. Applying any DRMs from your decision and refer to the table below. If you don't, immediately reduce U.S. alignment in Asia Pacific by 1 full box. I don't want to do that. But it does give us a pro-U.S. relationship with China. But then we would lose an ally relationship. Yeah, I don't like that at all. So we're going to use U.S. threat. Let's go for it. I rolled a 7, which is not good. So if you do, there's a +2 DRM to the ensuing die right results roll. So that drops it down to a 5. But see, a 4 to a 9 is here. If the sum of U.S. and naval and air strategic capability is greater than the sum of China's naval and air, so the air capabilities is 2 and naval is 3 for 5. China is 3 and 1 for 4. So yes, the sum of U.S. is greater than the sum of China. Patrolling U.S. naval and air units prevent Chinese expansion. Add 3 tension counters to China. Remove 1 China influence in the region. And add 1 tension to Japan, Australia, and South Korea. Move China's relations down 1 box. Okay, so we cost our relationships with them. They're back to neutral. We did make them lose an influence, which does bring them back down to 5. And we cause 3 tension markers on China. So they're up to 4 now. Whoops. 1 on Japan. 1 on South Korea. And I think they said 1 on Australia. Sorry, I know you saw that. And that's it. That was their final action. Man, when they take actions, it really does suck. It is not fun. That is for sure. So, just like in usual fashion, so China just acted. We lost a whole relationship with them level, but we get to do any 3 actions. So I'm going to do the presidential one to bring Japan back. For me, the keeping very close relationships with everybody is top priority because those. This is a Euro player in me. Action economy. I only get so many actions in the game, but if my allies are very close with me, they get 2 actions instead of 1. So I'm getting action economy out of my allies. So they're giving me free actions. And I know I'm spending actions to bring them back up, but it's just, as long as I stay on top of it, I'm getting bonus actions out of them. And that helps reduce tension. That gets, we can reduce regional crisis with them. There's a lot of stuff we can do. So this is the invite ally leader to the White House. We're going to do 1 action. I can't afford to do that. And we got to roll, and we got to hope that we get a 6 or a less. I don't get anything bonus-wise. So I just need a 6 or a less. Here we go. I got a 1. Perfect. So Japan is back to very close. So that was 1 of our 3 actions. We got 2 more. Now I can do a presidential trip to try to increase the stability. I could do a UN speech to create goodwill, which this will help me to get UN goodwill markers. I can use the bully pulpit to support for or against a bill in Congress. This could be interesting because I've never, if I get a 1 to a 3, if you were for the bill, move it 1 box left. If you were against it, move it 1 box right. See, the thing is I'm not against it. It's just that the other side proposed it, but it's also aligned with my my thing. I believe I have the orator. No, I don't. I don't know if I want to do that. And then presidential presence. I can improve media relations with this. Yeah, I'm a little hung up. I could do any 3 actions, and now I'm a little torn. I think I want to do some domestic ones because, we just reversed the worst thing that China did to us. Everything else, yeah, I can use actions to remove tensions from the board. That's always possible. We haven't triggered Japan in them, so I know that's one of the rogue groups that might come up. So as long as we're very close, we can use their own actions to remove tension. I think we want to improve our congressional relationship, but so far that has been backfiring on us so much. We're down to a 4. We can try to improve our relations with Congress, but if I roll a 4 or higher, nothing good comes out of it. I do have respected by Congress, so I get a -1. So I guess a 5 or higher. So it's a 50%. I think we got to get the congressional thing improved. The problem is it's only super helpful if I can get a 1, 2, or 3, which means I can roll a 1 through 4 because I get to do a -1. So I don't know where I got the 50% from. And just to show you, this is what I'm looking at. So a 1, 2, 3, and then I get to do a -1. So that means I can, convert a 4. So a 1 through 4 gets me something. Everything else either gives me nothing or worse. The domestic crisis thing I got really lucky with too. I was able to reduce it down to 1, which helps. Oh man, we could do, let's say we did more of this. We get the trending pro-US, receive a goodwill counter. So that's just as good as talking to the United Nations. See, this one would add a goodwill counter or place a trending pro-US. I don't have the orator attribute. At least I don't think I do. I'm likable and then respected by Congress. So right here, it says you can take this action during any activation phase when a diplomatic action can be taken. I didn't realize that. So these presidential actions are actually available to us all the time. Now, a presidential trip also gets public goodwill and public approval. You can choose a region, make a prestige check. My prestige is 6. If I pass, I place a trending pro-US counter in the region. And if I roll a 10, place an anti-US counter in the region. If the stability is 3 or 4, where there's currently a war, roll a D10 to determine appreciation for your efforts, and we could theoretically get a goodwill marker. That's actually pretty cool. So we've only spent 1 action so far, right? We improved the relationship with Japan, and I've been hung up ever since on what to do next. So this is my dilemma. I can improve the Asia and Pacific. I already have a pro-US. I could knock that thing out of the park. Or I have the Middle East there, which just needs all sorts of help. Central America has a pro-US. I can bring that one up, which might help with stability someday. I can go where the Taliban are and help there, which would cause our regional approval to go up. Or I could even go to Ireland and move that one up. By moving that one up, that would help us to get rid of those Russian influence markers. Getting rid of Russian influence markers is a good thing. And if we get up to the 7 approval, that would help us. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go visit Ireland. And so we're going to stick with our roots and have some potatoes. So I'm going to choose Eurozone. I'm going to make a prestige check. My prestige check is 6 or less. I just rolled a 6. Boy, did I get lucky there. And I know this because my prestige is at 6. All right, so I place a trending pro-US counter in the region, and I already have one there. So what that means is instead the regional alignment moves up to 7. And the 7 is going to allow me to now be able to remove those Russian influence markers. Next, if the stability is 3 or 4, or there's a war, which neither of those are true, I don't get to do the next part. All right, so the last piece, I am torn. I can try to remove that Russian influence, which is now possible, or I was thinking of doing a domestic action. Well, we could actually get a trade agreement going. We could try to do a summit with China to get that relationship improved again. That would get rid of some of the tension markers. Yeah, there's actually a lot of things we can do. But I was thinking another one is stimulate the U.S. economy. So I can do an action, and I do have the awesome secretary. I can do a -1, and I don't think improve economy is my number 1. And I could have made it -3. But basically, make a economy check. So the economy is currently sitting at 5. So I need to roll a 5 or less. So that's 50%. And then I do have at least a -1. So a 6 or less does it for me. And if I'm willing to spend AP points, I can improve it even more. But I can knock that out of the park. Now I'm going to my diplomatic one to remove influence. I have to choose a region with alignment of 7 or 8, which Eurozone is. And for one action, on a roll of 1 to 6, I get to remove a Russia. So it's the same result. So I'm going to improve the economy. Let's go for it. Oh, I rolled a 9. I hate this, but I'm going to spend an AP. I got to roll again. There we go. We got a 3. That did the trick. The economy goes back up. This goes off. All right. How important was that? I think it was very important personally, but we'll see. I know, I'm running out of AP points. I can forfeit my actions to get AP points. I just never like doing that. So now we're going to do draw a chit. All right, let's not look. Domestic crisis. You suck. All right, domestic crisis is what I think it is. Roll a D10 and look at the result on table D9 on domestic charts. It does have a plus sign, which means we're going to draw another one. D9 is on page 10. All right, so we got a big table here. Let's just roll and see what we get here. It says we get to place a tensions counter on a POTUS cabinet focus priority in 6-to-1 order. So we got to grab a tension marker, and so the Homeland Security one now has a tension marker. We never had one there before, but now we do. That's the first thing. Now we roll a D10. A 1 is fantastic. Oh, no, it's not. What the heck? You know what? None of these are good. A 1, gun violence. +1 domestic crisis, -2 approval. Move gun legislation to number 1 public legislative priority. I don't think anybody realizes this, but guns were illegal before the gun crisis. So it was already against the law to shoot people. So making it against the law to own a gun, if they were willing to break the law to shoot people and the law didn't matter to them in the first place, what does the law have to do? How's the law going to stop you from owning a gun? If it's against the law to shoot someone, and you do it anyways, that means the law has no power over you. And so you make it against the law to own a gun, that same law has no power over you. It makes no sense. And I know Europeans, those of you out there, you don't understand it, but it's that simple. Liberty is liberty. Statistically, it is such a small thing. Okay. I need to find the public one. I'm on the right track. Give me a second. Here we go. Gun legislation. So the public priority of infrastructure upgrades, I'm assuming bumped off the list, and this one now moved up, so I'm assuming this one just goes away. Okay, well, it's done. What's done is done. Domestic crisis sucks. All right. Here we go. Draw 3 crisis cards. That's not good either. Although one of them was good for us. I'm assuming that because they're called crisis cards, they're not all going to be good. And I don't think it's a 50-50 ratio either. All right, here they are. Item number 1. Beloved legislator dies unexpectedly. Roll a d6 to identify who it is. 2. 1 to 3. Highest rated opponent. Resolved. Well, there's only one opponent, so I have 0 opponents on the board now. That part actually is pretty cool. All right, so take the identified counter from the friends or opponent box, remove it permanently from the game. Hey. That was, because I already threw it back in the box. I want to say it was a person who had media strength, right? It was not Estelle Lamb. It was a 2. Oh, it's Charles Gates. That's who it was. Yeah. So Charles Gates is out of the game. So I'll just put him over here. Then you're asked to speak at the memorial. Roll a d6. DMs are -1 if you have the orator. And +1 if the past legislator was an opponent. It's a +1. On a d6, that's horrible. I rolled a 6. You phoned it in. -1 public approval. -1 RWC. I'm down to 3. If they were an opponent, 1 box left on a bipartisan track. We can't go any further left than we already are. And then this horrible card is discarded. Oh boy. At least my opponent is no longer there. From a game perspective, that's good. He probably had a family who's going to miss him sorely. It's real easy to have compassion and empathy. Okay, here we go. Immediate, -1 public approval. We're now down to 30. Place 1 tensions counter on POTUS Cab Focus, 6 to 1. Choose to support or oppose the reform. Let's see, support +1 party, where our party relations are already at the top. But this is a -2. We could get a +1 RWC, public approval, and media relations. Or -2 public approval and +1 domestic crisis. I forgot to increase the domestic crisis, by the way. Domestic failure is the next one. So it's not good, whatever we choose. Then we got another tension marker. It goes on the 5th one. Oh, fudge. I'm going to have to say -2 to party relations. Roll d6. I rolled a 6. I get +1 public approval and +1 media relations. Then place bill number 4, education reform, in the 0 pending bill box as your or your opponent's legislation. Move education reform to number 1 priority. Well, there you go. The gun thing came and went like it was nothing. America's already forgotten about it. That's how they feel about it. That was actually very thematic. So education reform moves to the top. I did this because I can't handle a domestic crisis, which I would have gotten if I would have rolled that 6 supporting my party. So expanded military goes out. The education reform goes into box 0. So there's 2 of them in box 0 now. 2 bills there, even though so we could say that's the opponents, right? That's where the opponents thing is coming from. The welfare was the opponents as well. We didn't propose it, although welfare lines up with ours. And then we got the media slant thing again. And I can't remember how that works. I think that's just the media goes up or down based on a check. I already forgot. We just did this. Check your media relations. Apply any public approval benefit or penalty that's listed on it. Oh, so it's just whatever it says. So we made their media relations go up, so we got a nothing. Otherwise, we would have gotten a -1. So we actually helped ourselves to avoid a loss of 2. We would have gained 2, possibly. Actually, we would have gotten a domestic crisis if I would have supported my own party, because I would have rolled a 6, because that's what I rolled over here. And yeah, that would have been horrible. But this is an event that gets discarded, just like the other one. Hurricane Oscar. +1 domestic crisis. So we now have a domestic failure. Oh, come on. All right. We'll deal with that after we resolve this. Place 2 tension counters on POTUS. Come on. Now we got more tension counters we know what to do with. So we did 6, 5, and then 4 and 3. We got 4 tension markers out there now. Place a worsening economy counter on the SOE track. Decide whether to spend 0, 2, or 3 APs. I only have 1. So I'm going to spend 0. Roll a d6 and subtract the number of APs spent. If it's 0 or less, America follows your lead with a massive outpouring of donations and volunteerism. +2 public approval, and then this goes into the 3 bucket. One to 3, no further effect, and it goes into the 2 bucket. Your slow-moving response is seen as uncaring, and it goes into the 2 bucket. I rolled a 4. So -4 public approval. I am down to 24. Isn't that like a record low for a president? And then it moves into the 2 box. Oh, we got slaughtered by that one. And it's not over. Now we got this domestic crisis we got to deal with. So reducing that domestic thing is hard. It is not an easy thing to do. Domestic failure, 11. Anytime you reach the rule for domestic failure, immediately increase the lingering domestic issues tracked by 1 box. So we now have a problem there too. So this becomes a 2. Roll a d10, check the chart below, apply the effects immediately. Where did the die go? Right there. I rolled a 5. Move the domestic counter back to the 1, so let me do that right now. Okay, so we rolled a 5. If public approval is less than 40%, which it is, that becomes a 6. Media relations is 4 or less. It's not. It's not 6 or more either. I don't have either of these focuses. So I'm at 6. Failure causes issues with Congress. -1 public approval. I'm down to 22. And -1 relations with Congress. I'm down to 2. My goodness. This game is just like the designer has basically just said, you know what, -1 public approval every time. And when do I get to increase my public approval? Never. And I guess I can, try to do pulpit stuff, which I'm going to have to do, I guess. That's what I get. I'm that president that ignores the people. All right, so we did our 3 crisis, and we don't have to draw another chit because there's no plus, thank goodness. And now an ally rogue group is going to act, and then we're going to do our focus. So the rogue group is C. So we're going to do that, and let's see what the C does. I've been putting all my eggs into this basket, folks, that I'm investing in keeping the relationships high with these groups, so that way I can enjoy the benefits of world control, because I gotta focus domestically hard here. Okay, this is Australia, Israel, India, and Rogue. So great relationships with all of them. So let's see where we go here. Activate Australia. Very close, 2 joint actions instead of 1. That's the whole point. Perform a number of joint actions. So the possible joint actions are here. They should be the same as anywhere else. Removing stress from the ally, which they have 1, or decrease regional crisis by 1. Humanitarian aid is a good one. De-escalate. They don't have any conflict. They can try to reinforce. They're not involved in a war. Stabilize the region. Increase stability by 1 box. Stability is pretty high. It's up at 6. Or intel, locate terror groups. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do humanitarian aid. 1 to 8 is going to reduce crisis in the region. I rolled a 6, and the crisis drops from 2 down to 1. And then I'm actually going to remove the tension. So we're not even going to deal with it for them. That was a +1. Now it's a +0. Okay, then it says, when finished with joint actions, flip over all tension counters, which are gone. And we're going to do the unilateral action. So for Australia, that's this. We're going to roll. We rolled a 7. If there's no tensions, it becomes a 6. There's no 3 or 4 terror group. There is 3 or more tensions on China, so it becomes a 7 again. And U.S. is at war, so it becomes an 8. Anti-terror campaign. Reduce 1 level 3, 2, or 1 terror group in Asia Pacific by 1 level. Well, that's excellent. So this terror group 2 is reduced to a 1. That's just as good as coming up here and doing all that nonsense. Good job, Australia. That's what I'm getting at. So we used our bonus action to remove a tension, which kept us at an 8. Otherwise, it would have moved up to a 1-9, which would have been join U.S. sanctions. And we actually would have had to roll again because I don't think we have a unilateral U.S. sanction anywhere. And yeah, it looks like that none of those are actually horrible, but it's still good to do. So then remove all of their tensions and replace like usual. Next, we're activating Israel. And do the same procedure except for Israel. Now, they have a lot of stuff going on. Israel has no tension. They also have +1 AP, so they get to do 3 actions instead of 2 because they won that one war. So they do have 2. They need to stabilize the region. And they get a -1 to their DRM if there's no crisis. There's currently 2 crises on the board. They could add to their war, get more points, but they're not the aggressor, and they already have the odds in their favor, so that adding to the war, it does nothing to help them. They don't want to de-escalate. They're already winning. So first thing I think we're going to do is humanitarian aid. So let's go. We rolled an 8, which lowers the regional crisis by 1. And then we're going to do it again for a second time. A 6. We're going to lower it to 0. And then we're going to use their +1 AP here. And that they're going to now try to stabilize the region. I rolled a 2. They get a -1. On a 1 to 4, stability increases by 1 box. And so that is strong because this thing has been a low 3 the whole game. So we got their stability to move up 1. Okay, that's Israel. Now we got to do the unilateral Israel thing. We rolled a 6. Let's see what it says. -1 for 5. Nothing. There's no rogue states. There's a lot of other stuff going on, but no rogue states. The Iranian nuclear missile program is currently on 3. So this is getting a 2. So that became a 5, and now it's a 7. And Israel is at war, so it becomes a 9. So 9, strike Iranian-backed missile weapon. Remove 1 Iran influence of your choice in the Middle East. So we're going to remove the one on the civil war that's not on ceasefire. But that wasn't very... Now, it does show blue results. And Israel's already at war. +1 to their strength in the war instead of the listed results. Okay, so we actually got to put that influence marker back. And they get +1 to their strength, which really doesn't help them any, but they go from a 7 to an 8. I was hoping they were going to help, reduce the missile track, which they would have if we had gotten a 14 or more. Actually, it is on there. Let me show you right here. It actually starts a war with them, where they're the aggressor. But that is not what happened here. So we did the unilateral table. We did our 3 actions. And we come back and they don't get any extra tensions because they didn't have any. So next we activate India. So we do the same. We get 2 actions with India. One of them, I'm going to remove the tension. And then the other action, we're going to lower the crisis. So I rolled a 2. And the crisis was at 3, so we move it down to a 2. That was a good move. I wish I had more actions with them. In fact, maybe even leave the tension there. So then we're going to roll for India. Unilateral is 2. And the India action table has a -1 for no counters, so that becomes a 1. Every 3 or 4 level terror group, there is a 3, so they get a +1, so they're back to 2. Per or. So that means you add it, right? So that makes it another +1 for 3. Is their conflict status greater than 2? No, it's at 2. Oh, China and Pakistan. So the Pakistan one's at 2. The China one is at 1. It's less than 2. So basically this turned into a 3. And if we look at the 3 up here, we get a orange result. Increase economic impact within Central. Remove 1 China or Russia influence counter from Central South Asia. And it says if the result is orange, also end a war with China or Pakistan. Which neither of those are happening. But if it was brown, they would get extra strength against them. That's interesting. But the good news here is we get to remove an influence marker. So both China and Russia have an influence marker there. Russia wins if they get to 9. So we're going to remove the Russian one and drop them down to 6. So that's good. Then, obviously, there's no tension marker, so we deal with that. So now we do the rogue state. And there is a rogue state counter on the map. Perform the process below for each rogue state counter on the map. So this is the part we've been forgetting to do. So it says if it's a level 1, rogue 2 is at war, which it is, because it's the Taliban. Only do A. So we're going to roll a d10 and they could possibly get more strength. I rolled a 4. They're going to get +1 strength, so they are now, basically they go back up to 4. Because remember we reduced them by 1 strength, so they got their 1 strength back. Also, if it's combined air ground and the rogue state is not winning, roll a d10 on a 1 to 5, change it to guerrilla war. Oh, come on. So it just switched to guerrilla war. Which is over here. And what that means is I got to move it twice now to win. So they made it tougher. So we only do A, we don't do a terror impact. Final action, check unstable states in the Middle East and Africa. There are 2 unstable states in the Middle East. There are 2 in Africa. And then for each one, we're going to roll. So we're going to do the 2 in Africa first. The left one there. 3 is remove it. Next one. And 8 is keep it there. And we go to the Middle East. If the stability is less than 5, it gets a +1. So a 3 would have caused it to stay because it would have gone to a 4. And then the 8 turns into a 9. This becomes a civil war. Good old Africa. All right. Now we're going to do the 2 in the Middle East. The stability is 4. So they're both getting a +1. So, yeah, we're in trouble. I rolled a 10. That becomes an 11. So, the Middle East no longer has an unstable state. They now have a rogue state, level 1. Let's do the other one. Oh my gosh. Another rogue state, level 1, is appearing in the Middle East. So now there's 2 of them there. Okay, well, things are getting pretty heated up in the Middle East for sure. And that's it for Rogue. I still think the bonus actions are paying off. We're getting rid of influence counters. We are reducing regional crisis levels. We are helping. It's just that, yeah, the civil wars and things like that, I can't control that. That's, getting rid of those are nearly impossible. So then we're going to do our POTUS cabinet focus. Now we have tension markers for the first time. So let me get this camera so I'm not bumping markers. And this is the part we got to pay attention to, right here. That's all of our steps. Okay, sorry, I was just reading the step here. So at the start of each turn, set your domestic focus. So I actually took these off, and I shouldn't have. I did put them back to the way they were in between videos. And they're labeled 1 to 6. So during the segments of each turn, we roll a d6 for each area that does not have a tension marker. And then there's a success range, and we get the effect. Anytime the game instructs us to put a tension marker there, it's placed in 6, 5, 4, etc. If all 6 markers are there, then we lose a P point and roll in the cabinet drama table instead. And then it's letting us know that domestic action number 6 would allow us to remove these tensions, which would have made these actions doable again. We never had a chance to do any actions, so it sucks. So the fact that there's 4 tension markers there means we don't do those. So we skip this one to improve our relations with Congress, and we go to this one, which I need a 1 through a 5. I roll a 1, so that improves the economy. So I got rid of the worsening scale. So it didn't actually move, but we got rid of the worsening. And then we skip, skip, skip. And then we get to this one, which is a 1 to 4. And I rolled a 1 again. The cabinet effectiveness starts to improve again. Maybe we, I'm sorry, we got to roll. I rolled a 1. Cabinet effectiveness starts to improve again. And that's good. Now, as far as those tension markers, I don't think I get to remove them yet. I'd have to now spend actions to remove those. And I'm very sad that most of those got blocked. And they were blocked from the crisis chits. So we had 3 actions here where we could have removed them. But these crisis moments are what added to it. So now we go here and -1 to media relations. So they drop down to 4. And then we get 2 domestic actions, and there's a legislative segment. So the first one I want to do is domestic action 6. I've got to get rid of those tension markers, although we're done for the year. I don't think there's any more times this year I'm going to get to do it. I just don't think the domestic markers are going to go away, or the tension. And of course, domestic action 6 is track terror target in CONUS. Makes no sense. I don't know why they reference thing. See, look at this. Remove 1 tension counter from POTUS cabinet focus. Just 1. I can spend an AP to remove 2. I can't do that now. The rest of the game, I'm not doing cabinet-focused stuff. I'm done with... I'm looking. Yeah, I don't have any more POTUS or cabinet-focused actions. So I can't, like, you want to do it because it's reacting to what just happened to you, but we have to focus ahead. And right now we got legislative coming up. So we have 0 bipartisan cooperation. We have 2 bills that are waiting to be passed. And my public approval and my relationship with Congress is horrible. I don't know how to, and we only do domestic, right? 2 domestic actions. So there is presidential actions I can do when it's domestic. They told me that. I can do a presidential presence. Raise your media relations and public approval tracks. I may want to do that. And then here's the other one. Use the pulpit. So let's do this one first. I have to. I'm struggling so badly. My public approval is 22. So I got to do a presidential prestige check. My prestige is 6. I just need a 6 or less. I got a 3. Good job. I passed the check, but the result is greater than 1. So +2 public approval or +1 media relations. The media relations is going to cause me to lose public approval. I'm checking to see when that would trigger. You know what? We just passed all that, so I don't think it's triggering again. Or maybe it is, and it's just labeled something else, and I don't remember. That's always possible. I hate the fact that this is a choice. I want both. Obviously, if I had a 1 or less, I would have gotten both. But that's, I would have needed really good stuff here. And I don't have either of these skills. I don't have the AP to spend. And I rolled a 3 anyway, so even if I reduced it to a 2, that wouldn't have mattered. I'm going to go with the +2 public approval. The media relations, it does raise my public approval if I can get it high enough. Let me think about this. You know what? I'm going to do the media relations because when we do some of those other checks, that matters. So I'm going to move that up to 5. All right. The next thing, I'm going to use the bully pulpit to rally support for or against the Congress. Well, hold on. I'm not for a bill. I don't want to cause some of those bills to fail. So do I get to decide if they're for a bill or against it? I mean, the opponents put it on, but I'm for it too. Because here's the deal. I'm causing it to move 1 box to the left, which means I'm causing it to fail. Oh no. Yeah, if I was for it, I'm causing it to pass. If I was against it, I'm moving it to fail. So here's the 2. Education reform is not on our list. So we didn't want that one. So of course that's an opponent one. But the welfare reform was on our list because that was also a public priority. So even though the opponents proposed it, I mean, I supported it. I feel like I have to do it this way. If anybody in the comments knows, please let me know because I'm really struggling with this concept. Because doing this bully pulpit thing, I mean, the opponents did propose it, so I guess what does it make me look like if I'm rallying for their thing? I mean, I guess. See, I get a -1 if I have approval. Like, none of this is working my way. I don't have cooperation. My relations is 4 or less. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to leave it fester. And I'll put it as opponent's bill. They both are. Although that is one of our priorities. I'm just going to let it fester. So what I'm going to do instead is, I know I want to improve my relations with Congress, but I'm going to do this because this is going to help me get my public approval up. So I'm moving this up to 7. There's my other action. I'm done. I'm struggling. Now I got a crisis. As if I needed another one. Let's do another crisis, because why not? So let's make China do cyber attacks against us. Come on. Come on. There we go. Oh, I was joking. I was joking. China, you suck. They are going to do cyber attacks, that much I know. So it says they do 2 cyber attacks, just like Russia. And they need to roll a d10 to see what other action they do. So it's just like Russia. So here's the first cyber attack. It's on number 2, which is political cohesion. Oh yeah, that's all we need. And then the 3 is a major success. Relations with Congress by 1 box, reduced. Can't go any lower. Do I lose the game? I think I do, actually. Relations with Congress, page 20. If it's too low, you could be impeached. But it doesn't say how that happens. Here we go. Auto loss. Allowing a war between NATO and Russia, Japan and China, a victory for Russia, a victory for China, a level 4 rogue state, by run out of rogue state counters, WMDs, nuclear tracks, lingering issues, having more than 5 wars, my performance evaluation at the end of the turn of 16 or less. I'm on my way. Failure to be reelected and a scandal that leads to my impeachment. Okay, so we're fine. So, legacy points. We gain them by passing legislation, achieving greater society goals, having public approval, being an agent for peace. Performance evaluation score of 26 points at the end of a turn. And just by playing normal, because yeah, we got 5 prestige for that. If your approval rating is 34% or lower at the end of your term, you'll lose a number of points. Your party relations can cause you to lose if you're defeated in re-election or have too many tension counters. Random events. All right, well, give me 1 second here. Okay, so like right now with our public approval rating, we're going to lose 6 legacy points because it's such a horrible thing. And the party relation track, if it's down to 2 or 3, we lose 15 legacy. You lose 5 if you can't get reelected. Yeah, so that's basically the summary of how you can miserably run this country. I think if you say that you conquered Medicare when you're answering a question about women's rights, that could also be an indicator that you're not running the country very well. Okay, so I don't see any consequence about lowering a box That can't be lowered. The bipartisan cooperation also can't be lowered. And I must randomly discard one congressional friend. Ooh, that part hurts. I was finally doing well. So, okay. 1 to 3, 4, 5, 6. I lose the radical. All right. That hurts. That we're right before legislation, and the Chinese have to do this. Decrease public approval by 2 boxes. Yay, team. Okay, and then number 5, they're targeting a major trade partner. They rolled a 5. They succeed. They're going to add 1 influence to Asia. We worked so hard to remove that influence. So 1 gets added. They move back up to 6. That's it. They just add 1. Okay, now we're going to do their random one. So it's 9. We're going to try to do action 9 here. Test cyber war against U.S. economy. If China posture is 2 and the relationship with the U.S. is 4 or less, yes, it is. So place 2 tension counters on China and a trending anti-U.S. counter on their relations. So 2 more tension markers go on China. And becoming anti-U.S. Then we're going to make a Homeland Security check. Our Homeland Security is 7, by the way, so our check is going to be pretty solid. Except I rolled an 8, so we failed. That's not good. But there's some DRMs here. +1 to all rolls, so that's now a 9. We don't have legislation. Our cyber capabilities is not higher. Oh, we don't get anything. That becomes a 9 now. We failed the check. Major disruption. Decrease the state of economy track by 1 box and decrease public opinion by 5 boxes. So the economy just crashed. Public opinion. What's public opinion? U.S. public opinion by 5 boxes, and relations with Congress and Homeland Security by 1 box each. So I'm assuming that's world opinion. That's not public opinion of U.S. There is no such thing as public opinion of U.S. There's public approval. There's the world opinion of us. So I'm assuming this just collapses, the world opinion of us. And place 2 tension counters on China. If cybersecurity bill is not already in Congress, introduce it immediately as opponent legislation and move their relations with us left by 2 boxes. Holy cow! So 2 more tension. I lost this game, folks. I'm not even competing. So 2 more tension, and then their relation drops by 2. So we're now Cold War adversaries. And they immediately propose another bill that's not ours in Congress for cyber security. that stunk. Focus national intelligence. I don't know where that is. This is the POTUS cabinet focus. Then we get to take 2 domestic actions. Yeah, we already did all this, sorry. Then it's saying legislative. Oh, we were supposed to do this before the China thing. Oh my goodness, I am so brain dead. The legislative stuff happens before the China stuff happens. So back up, hold the presses. So, okay. Total separately the sum of the legislative ratings of all your friends. So I actually still had my person. I'm trying to figure out who that was. I know it was a radical, had a strength of 2. It was my Hugo Torres. Okay, so we have this person who China got rid of. But then we have this one. So we had a strength of 4, right? We had those 2. And that's not who I had. I had a media person. They both had media on them. It was Sarah Riley. This one. Okay. So it's telling us, let me zoom out a little. Total separately, the sum of all your friends in the congressional friends box. Then subtract, there's no opponents. Treat results greater than 3 or less than 3 as 3. So we're greater than 3. We have a 4. So if the result is positive, you may move that number of bills, either yours or opponents, 1 box in either direction on the pending bills track, thus increasing or diminishing their support in Congress. If it's negative, that's the legislative rating of your opponents exceeds your friends. Move that number of your not opponent's bills 1 box towards strong opposition cannot be passed. Okay, so the cybersecurity is not proposed yet, because remember we're retconning here. These are the 2 bills. The education reform is number 1, and then this one is on our list. So we want to for sure move this one. So if the result is positive, you may move that number of bills. So I have 3, so I'm going to move each of these 1 to the right. So I want them to pass, or 1 to the left. So I'm supporting them. So I'm moving those to the -1 section. Okay. The number in the current box in the bipartisan is the number of bills you must now attempt to pass. We have 0. If you control both houses, if it's split, to attempt to pass a bill, we can't do any of this stuff because we suck. And the House sausage is made. We can't introduce new bills because there's no cooperation in Congress. Total, then compare the media ratings for all friends and opponents. So my media rating is 3, for example. Move public approval of that number of boxes with a max of 3 in your favor if it's net high. So finally, public approval moves up for us. So 1, 2, 3. We did that. There's no scandals. Examine all the friends. If there are moderates, more moderates than radicals, move cooperation right by 1 box. We have 1 of each. Otherwise, no change. Perform 1 immediate free action of any type of each of your bills that were passed and signed. I didn't have any, so we didn't do diddly. Okay, so that's it. So now she's removed. They proposed the cyber legislation, and this one stays, and all the China nonsense happens. And we are now on the national intelligence focus step. So for this one, we're going to roll against the table and see what happens. 9. Move a level 3, 2, or 1 in that priority in the region to the gathering intel box. We get to do some things first. First, -1 if we're higher than Russia and China, which it is. So that 9 becomes an 8. -1 if, nope. +1 if there's an influence counter in the region where and their cyber is greater than us. Yeah, that is true. So it's a +1. So we're back to square one. So yeah, we're going to move a 3, 2, 1, and that to the gathering intel box. So the 2 moves to gathering intel in the Middle East. Yay, team. I feel like the actions I really want to do, I can't because the die rolls are near impossible to pull off. Like I want to improve my relationship with Congress. I got to roll 1, 2, or 3. I mean, that's horrible. That part I'm not liking about this game is like I feel like I have like absolutely horrible die rolls. And what can I do to mitigate that? I can spend an AP point to, in that action, nothing. I can't even improve my action. I think I can improve it by 1. So, okay, oh great, 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's still horrible odds. Anyways, I'm feeling frustrated. So we did the Intel one, and then it says 1 action for POTUS and each cabinet member. So basically we get 1 action across the board. Domestically, we're trash. And as much as I'm saying we're trash domestically, I'm looking out here and I'm seeing this isn't doing any better. I've been putting my effort into the world, and the world has not gotten better. So it just goes to show, no matter how much you're a good parent, your kids are going to suck. The children are going to be bad, whether you give them good guidance or not. So let's start with the diplomatic guy. I want to do a summit with China right here. So we're going to try to improve our relations with China, and it's going to cost us an action, and let's do a Chinese summit because we need it badly. We went from having great relations with them to horrible. Okay. If we have a relationship of 1, which we do, we get to resolve 1 problem and only 1 with them. So that problem we want to resolve is, I think we want to improve our relations with China. We could try to stabilize places. We can mediate a civil ceasefire, improve trade, remove sanctions. I want to improve relations, I think. We got some more options here. But a lot of these require a relationship of 3 or higher, which we don't have anymore. So let's try to improve relations. Let's roll. We rolled a 3. So if we roll a 3, nothing. They see it in their best interest to improve relations as well. So we can place a trending pro-US counter on the track. That's all we get out of the deal. Holy cow, that is horrible. I wasted a whole action for that. All right, and then we got to finish and we do the summit results, which is on the back page. Roll a die. I rolled a 5. We got 100%, 1 of 1. We rolled a 5, plus 1 public approval. That helps. Remove 1 tension counter from China, and then place trending pro-U.S. counter on China's relation. So we do move up. That's good. So we get to remove a tension. Because we're putting another pro-U.S. on, the relations do improve by 1. And that's it. So that was our diplomatic one. We have a military one. We're now in guerrilla warfare, so what can we do with our military guy? I mean, we could do ops against terror groups. We can move or deploy forces. I actually think the best move for the military is to forego the action and gain an action point. Move us up to 2. And now we have the vice president and some domestic stuff. So the vice president has a 1 for domestic, and so does our cabinet. Domestic is where we're having all of our issues. So I want to well, first I want to remove those tension markers, right? So we're going to do this one. It's going to cost an action and an AP, which I'm going to spend. We're going to get rid of 2 tension markers. Done. And then for the other one, the vice president, we're going to do the same. Action and AP, and I'm going to remove 2 more. I know that may not be a good use of my actions, but I feel like everything else has a less than 50% chance of succeeding, and I want something that is going to succeed. Now for the presidential one, like another thing that would succeed is to move up the party relations, which that would have been nice, but I think for the presidential one, we got all kinds of things we can do. We could even do a presidential trip. But I think we're going to do presidential presence again. I'm not spending an AP. Let's just roll. I rolled a 4, which I think is pretty good. So I passed the check, but it's greater than 1. So 2 public approval or 1 media relations. I'm going to take the media relations. I'm going to move it up by 1 to a 6. And I defeatedly admit that that's the best I can do. So now we move to here, and it's now any for diplomatic or military actions. So that's, again, we're dealing with the world here. So, I mean, diplomatically, we just did the summit with China. Yeah, we're going to try to remove tensions with China because they got a ton of tension markers. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I rolled a 5. I get to subtract 1 because of my diplomacy rating of my Secretary of State. And then I add for China, the rating on China's relations with the U.S. track, which is going to be a 1. So it cancels. So it's a 5. A 4 to a 7 is success. Remove 1 tension. All that to remove 1 tension. That's ridiculous. I think I can just for an action just remove tension. All right, so I have 3 more actions, diplomatic or military. We're near the end. I probably want to get a trade agreement going. So let's try to do a trade agreement with the Eurozone. Because I think that's going to help us. So we're going to do the trade agreement chart, WD4. No, we don't. We're going to spend an action. Choose a region. We're doing Euro. Make a regional alignment check. So their alignment is 7. I, of course, didn't pass. So I failed. So action 3, I'm going to try again. I pass. So now we have the trade proposed, but I just realized my relationship with Congress sucks. So we're not going to get this to pass. So there's a trade agreement pending with the Eurozone. And then for the second phase, I have to make a relations with Congress check, and their relations is 2. And I can spend action points to reduce it, but I don't have any. So it's a 4, and of course it doesn't pass. So that was 3 of my 4 actions. I totally forgot I had to do the Congress thing. I'm not thinking very well right now. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to try to remove a Russian influence counter from the Eurozone. So it's got a 7 or 8. And if I roll a 1 to a 6, it'll let me remove a counter. I rolled an 8. Didn't do anything. My goodness, I just wasted all those actions. I accomplished very little. All right, that brings us to the end. We're going to activate 4. We're completely out of action points. Congress hates us. The world hates us. The people hate me. I am doing horrible. And I honestly, the frustration I feel right now is I feel like there's no options for me to do better. Because like whatever I do, I'm incrementally increasing our situation in one place, and I'm just having 3 other places collapse. It's the whole finger in the dam problem. Somebody puts a finger in a dam and then 3 other holes pop up, and then they put fingers in those 3 holes and then 4 more holes pop up. That's what this game is. And it's actually what I was getting at is I don't like games like this for this reason. It's just brutally punishing, and it feels like it's brutally punishing for no reason. Maybe somebody will say, hey, if you use better strategy, you just get good. I don't know. What did I do that was so horrible? I spent my action points early. Okay. If I wouldn't have done that, then I would have failed to do the things I actually did accomplish in this game. And then what? That's my thing. I have a big beef with, like, if I feel like, I'm turning these dials, I'm pulling these levers, and there's nothing getting better. I guess I'm making ground in Asia. The Eurozone is okay. Everywhere else, nothing. I am winning my war. I have good relations with all my allies. All right, well, enough complaining. I'm just very tired too. I literally did an 8-hour marathon of gaming today, playing this game, recording it. And so my voice is going, and I also have to work tomorrow, so it might be a while before I can get back to this. But there you have it. We made it through 3/4 of the first year. I'm exhausted. I am doing horrible. I'm hoping at the end of the turn that some magical things are going to help me, but all the dials are horrible. So I feel like I'm going to get punished at the end of the turn. And I'm very concerned about that. But anyways, thanks for watching. As always, stay awesome.